Welcome to Without a Trace. I'm your host, Jalyn, and today I have two interesting cases to discuss with you. Both of these cases involve a homicide of a mother and a kidnapping of their infant child. Every file holds a mystery, every story deserves to be heard. These are the stories of Sylena and Allyson Dalton and Shauna and Zaylee Fryar. Sylena Dalton grew up in the small town of Strasburg, Virginia. She was a typical Strasburg girl who grew up participating in Girl Scouts and playing volleyball and basketball in high school. Allyson stood at only 5 feet tall, but was described by loved ones as feisty, with one friend saying, quote, "Sylena is a nice, sweet, loving person, but she held her own." Selena's mom, Angela, describes her as a person who told you what she thought, but she was a good kid. Sylena was 20 years old when she gave birth to Allyson Dalton on May 17, 1998. Sylena and Allyson lived in a second-floor apartment with Selena's mom, Angela Stover. Angela spent the weekend at the beach and came home early on the morning of July 27, 1998, with just enough time to get ready for work. Angela left the apartment around 7:45 a.m. that morning to head to work. As Angela was leaving, Sylena told her mom that she was up all night with Allyson. Allyson was a colicky baby, so this wasn't unusual for her to be up all night. This morning, Sylena had successfully gotten Allyson to sleep in her swing in the living room, so Sylena was going to lie on the couch and take a nap. This was the last known sighting of Allyson and Sylena. Sylena was not yet back to work and wasn't getting out of the house much since having Allyson, but Sylena was a social butterfly and had many friends visiting the apartment. Between 1:30 and 2:15 in the afternoon, a friend came to visit. The friend knocked on the door, but Sylena didn't answer. She found the door unlocked, so she walked in and saw what looked like someone laying on the couch with a blanket pulled up over them. Thinking Sylena was napping on the couch, the friend said something along the lines of, "You need to wake up," and then pulled the blanket off of Sylena. Once she pulled back the blanket, the friend immediately recognized Sylena had been killed. The friend began looking around the apartment for Allyson, but couldn't find the 10-week-old child. The phone in Selena's apartment started ringing, and it was another friend of Selena's calling to say hi. The friend that found Sylena was in shock and told the friend everything, so the friend on the phone rushed over to the apartment. This call came in before the friend had a chance to call 911, but at some point 911 was called. Selena's aunt lived nearby and presumably saw the commotion at the apartment. She called Angela at work and told her she needed to come home immediately. Angela got there so quickly that Selena's body was still on the couch. Angela notes she will always remember the horror of listening to her sister break the news and rushing home to find Sylena dead. Sylena was stabbed 5 or 6 times, and whoever did this was strong because these were deep wounds. Sylena was stabbed in the lungs, heart, and liver. She had some cuts on her hand, but overall it appeared she had little opportunity to defend herself because of the lack of blood spatter and defensive wounds. One friend stated, quote, "Knowing that they're saying there was no struggle, there was no evidence of anything, this means the person who took Allyson and murdered Sylena, she would have had to have trusted them." It is presumed that someone entered the apartment between 9:15 and 10:30 that morning while Sylena was napping. The killer then stabbed Sylena and covered her with a blanket before leaving with Allyson and the murder weapon. It has been reported early on and often that the only things missing from the apartment were Allyson and several baby bottles. This is key information because why would someone have taken the bottles unless their intention was to take Allyson and provide her care? The neighbor living below Sylena, Bob Spencer, was home at the time. Police spoke with him hoping for a solid lead, but Bob initially said he didn't hear any screams or notice any other disturbances that day. Bob later told another neighbor that he did hear a noise and looked out the window to see a white male putting a baby in a passenger side of a pickup truck before driving away. According to Bob, the male didn't have a car seat or anything else needed for a baby. He simply laid the baby on the seat. The neighbor went to the police and told them what Bob had said. Bob then made an official statement and explained he didn't initially tell the truth because he was hesitant to get involved with the police. Due to the police's policy, they haven't publicly named suspects, but through media, we know about 2 individuals the police looked into. Both persons of interest had sometime relationships with Sylena. One individual had a solid alibi and was cleared right away. The second individual, Daniel Pompel, he hasn't been cleared of any involvement. Sylena had no known enemies, but she did have a disgruntled ex-boyfriend. Sylena had been dating Daniel, who was 10 years her senior. Their relationship was a tumultuous one, and it only worsened when Sylena discovered she was pregnant. Police had previously been called over for a fight Sylena and Daniel were having, resulting in a report of domestic dispute being written. However, the relationship diminished once Sylena became pregnant. Friends of Sylena say she was deeply afraid of Daniel. However, Daniel denied being in a relationship with Sylena, describing his relationship with her as a friend, and stated he was not romantically involved with her. Just 5 days before Sylena's murder and Allyson's abduction, on July 22nd, Daniel received an order in the mail telling him he had to submit a DNA sample for a paternity test. At the time of the murder, Sylena was seeking child support from Daniel. Sylena told a friend she was hoping to resolve things with Daniel outside of court once paternity was established. She was afraid to take him to court, thinking it would make him upset. At the time of the murder, Daniel was the prime suspect. Daniel told police he didn't suspect he was Allyson's father and he had no knowledge of the order for a paternity test or child support because he didn't open the letter. Once questioned by police, Daniel admitted he had been at Selena's apartment at about 9 a.m., shortly before the murder. Daniel said he knocked on the door and no one answered, so he left. Witnesses confirmed seeing him outside the residence with a bundle under his arm. Daniel's admission of being at Selena's apartment the morning of the murder gave police probable cause. They filed an affidavit listing that Daniel had admitted to being at the apartment at the time of the murder and may have a motive due to being angry about possible child support order heading his way. Police were granted a search warrant. From his home, they took clothes and some knives to be sent for testing. They also obtained a warrant for Daniel's DNA, which was used to run a paternity test, the results of which proved he was in fact Allyson's father. It seems most likely that Daniel is responsible for the events that took place on July 27, 1998. Daniel's truck matched the description that Selena's neighbor Bob saw, and witnesses saw Daniel leaving the apartment with a bundle under his arms. Daniel is the only known individual to visit the apartment around the time of the murder. It was reported that Daniel was married at the time, but the details of this are unknown. This leads us to wonder if Daniel was angry about having to pay child support, or possibly he was worried that this would expose an affair he was having. Daniel has never been charged with any crime in connection to Selena's murder or Allyson's disappearance, and he has cooperated with the investigation. Daniel has always maintained his innocence, saying, quote, "I did not kill her. I have no idea what happened to her. I was her friend, and we had a good time together." When asked if Allyson was alive, Daniel answered, "She could be." Daniel has expressed he wants nothing more than to move on with his life because he believes his reputation has been ruined as a result of the case. Selena's mother, Angela, says she knows who killed Sylena and took Allyson, and she blames the Virginia State Police for failing to make an arrest. Angela has complained police are not keeping her in the loop with regard to their investigation, and she's worried authorities aren't doing enough to find Selena's killer and bring Allyson home. In 2001, Angela took matters into her own hands and filed a wrongful death suit against Daniel, suing him for $1.5 million. The case was dismissed due to a lack of evidence. Civil court has a lower standard of evidence than a criminal court, so Angela's case being dismissed leads us to believe that police haven't charged anyone in connection to the murder or abduction because they just don't have enough evidence. Several people have expressed their worries that police didn't act quickly enough or test enough in the beginning of the case. Even when it comes to the search for Allyson, authorities scanned the banks of the river and combed the area near the apartment. However, it is estimated that Sylena was killed between 10:15 and 10:30 that morning. Even if she was killed at 10:30, the latest possible time, that still gives the abductor 3 hours to escape with Allyson before her friend arrived between 1:30 and 2:15 p.m. So it's not likely that Allyson would have still been in the vicinity of the apartment. Selena's murder remains unsolved, and Allyson has yet to be found, and the case remains unsolved. Authorities continue to investigate the case and seek any leads that may help them locate Allyson. Shauna and Zaylee Fryar unfortunately fell to a similar fate as Sylena and Allyson Dalton. Zaylee Fryar was just 3 months old when she vanished under suspicious circumstances with her mother, Shauna Fryar, from their home in Millersville, Tennessee. On May 1st, 2011, Shauna's husband, Michael Fryar, left their home on C. Smith Street at 9 p.m. to go to the store. When he returned, Shauna and Zaylee were both gone. Shauna had dropped out of sight for days at a time on at least 4 prior occasions, and she always came home safely. So when Michael returned home to find the two missing, he assumed that they were safe and that they would come home soon. What was strange about this time, though, is that Shauna's Honda Accord, wallet, and cell phone were left at home with Zaylee's diaper bag. 3 days had passed, and Michael hadn't heard from Shauna, so he made the decision to report Shauna and Zaylee missing on May 5th, 2011. When asked why he waited so long to report the pair missing, Michael explained he was previously told by police that a missing persons report couldn't be filed before 48 to 72 hours passed. Shauna had a troubled life, with a long history of abusing drugs and being with abusive men. She had a long rap sheet with charges like reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon, child abuse, aggravated assault, and violation of probation, resulting in her 7 other children being under DCS's care and placed with family members. Shauna had a history of drug abuse, and authorities believe she may have gone out to look for drugs on the day of her disappearance. Shauna's family has never believed this theory and said she was happy and appeared to be a responsible and loving mother to Zaylee, despite her history. The birth of Zaylee had inspired Shauna to try to straighten up. On May 7th, authorities found a body in the Cumberland River in Nashville, 40 miles from Shauna and Zaylee's home. It took investigators until May 10th to know for sure that the body they found was Zaylee's mother. Due to being in the water for several days, the body was unidentifiable by the time they recovered her, and it was hard to tell any type of trauma that happened before or after the body had been dumped. Shauna's body was swollen and partially eaten away by water life. Investigators believed she was dead before her body was put into the water because she had a through-and-through wound that entered in the front and exited in the back. Her death was ruled a homicide, and it is believed that she is killed in or near her home in Millersville, then taken to Nashville and dumped there. The search for Zaylee was unsuccessful, and authorities felt their chances of finding her were slim. If Zaylee went into the water with her mother at the same time, it would be almost impossible to identify her, as her infant bones could have been mistaken for a twig or a rock, or simply never found due to their small size. Shauna's husband, Michael, quickly became the main suspect. Shauna and Michael married in 1999, but separated in 2005. The two both dated other people, but remained legally married and were still friends. Michael regularly let Shauna stay with him when she needed to. Shauna and Zaylee were living in Nashville and were homeless before they moved in with him on April 29th, just days before they went missing. Michael was a violent offender and had a drug problem and a history of child abuse toward his own children. Authorities believed Michael wouldn't hesitate to harm a child, but Michael stated he loved Zaylee and took care of her as if she was his own. He had been at the hospital when she was born and hoped to get legal custody of her. Michael never admitted to any involvement, but there were several red flags during his interview with police. He had a lot of deceptive behavior and provided 3 or 4 written statements, each of which were different. Police were unsuccessful in getting a confession out of Michael before his passing in 2018. Zaylee's biological father, Thurman McCurry, was incarcerated on charges related to the assault of Shauna at the time of their disappearance, and he was ruled out as a suspect. Local authorities blamed the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for losing some records that could have helped solve the case. In July 2021, authorities released never-before-seen photos from the crime scene in hopes it would spark a new lead. Zaylee's family have remained hopeful that they will learn what happened to her. Zaylee's biological father, Thurman, said, quote, "I would love to know if she's still living or if she's not. I would love to know something because she is my daughter. And I do want to know where she's at because I do love her." Zaylee's sister Desiree, who was 10 years old at the time, said, "I don't get to know my little sister like I wanted to. I would love for her to be here. I would love to have that connection with my sister." Detectives preserved part of Shauna's liver, so if Zaylee is found, they can confirm with a DNA match. They have performed DNA tests on 2 children who resembled Zaylee, but they did not match. Anyone with information is asked to reach out to the Millersville police at 615-859-2758. They said they will not charge anyone with withholding information as they simply want to know what happened in this case. Zaylee has a brown quarter-sized birthmark on her right leg. So, what do you think happened? In both cases, it sounds like the mother's partner was involved in the murder and abduction. However, lack of evidence has prevented authorities from making any arrests. Thank you for listening to Without a Trace with your host, Jalen. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Allyson and Zaylee's disappearances. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe and follow us on social media. Join me next week as I dive into another case.